everybody, Orion Waheb here, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to navigate imposter syndrome powerfully. And we're going to do so through 3 steps. And step 1 is actually that imposter syndrome isn't even real. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Orion, I'm experiencing imposter syndrome and it feels really real. And I imagine you are experiencing imposter syndrome because you're watching this video. And I know that when you're experiencing it, it feels really real, because when I'm experiencing it, it feels really real. I'm actually experiencing it right now because I'm wearing this headset that in my mind feels really goofy and looks really goofy. So there's that part of me that wonders, is anyone watching this video really going to take me seriously with this thing on my head? But I am recording remotely from like an offsite location as I'm at the Bitcoin conference in Miami. So it's the best audio option I have. So I'm moving through the experience that I'm having of imposter syndrome. I feel it in my chest right now, and I'm taking action with that experience happening, which is really what step 1 is all about. To realize that imposter syndrome isn't real, even though it feels real, because imposter syndrome is just a label. And it's a label that's only been around since about 1978, when psychologists started to study this phenomenon of a gap between what your gifts, talents, and geniuses actually are, the truth of them, and the beliefs and perceptions you have about them. So there's this gap, and that gap causes an experience. So there's the label, and then if you're trying to change the label or fix the label, then you're probably going to be running around in circles. But if you learn how to navigate the experience, now you have an option to move into a new way of being. And I want to just calm your mind down and let you know that you don't have a syndrome. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need medication. You don't have a mental illness. And that's kind of the issue with that label, is this is a very normal experience that happens in our society. And the reason it happens is because of the centuries of conditioning around needing to have a certain level of study and certification and all of that in order um, to charge for services or to actually give services. And it leaves people constantly feeling like they're not good enough. And even if you're, presented with tons of evidence of people wanting to pay you money and telling you how much you've helped them and how amazing you are and all of these things, and I know this from experience too, that there's still that part of you that believes, yeah, but I just pulled one over on them. Like, whew, got through that one. I can't believe they actually believed I'm good at that. Or like this feeling that you're actually like tricking people, or that you just got lucky. Now, this is the phenomenon, and that is associated with that gap, and it's never going to go away. Not in a bad way. It's always, but when you start to reorient around the experience and really understand it, which is why step 1 is about bringing more awareness to it, that it's not a syndrome. Imposter syndrome isn't real. It's just this experience that you can learn to navigate and move through and move with. And why I say it's never going to go away is because as long as you're a leader, and if you're watching this video, I imagine you are, perhaps you're in the coaching industry, or perhaps you're a leader in your field, whether that be the medical field, the education field, or the technology field, or some other field, but you're a leader either directly of people, you're leading people underneath you, or kind of a leader of philosophy or a leader of thought. And right now, in this time that we're in with COVID and everything going on, and people really being forced to slow down and be with their emotions, leaders are more and more important, and we're being called to be at the leading edge of what does it mean to be a human in a new way. And we're being called to support others on that journey. Again, whatever field you're in, to not overwork, to not push yourself anymore, to not over exhaust yourself and achieve success at the risk of your health, at the loss of your health. And that requires a deeper ability to be with your own emotions. And that's really how to navigate imposter syndrome powerfully, is to be with that nervous excitement that happens at the edge of your comfort zone, that happens when you're stepping into a new expression, a new way of being, a new level of your leadership. And this brings us to step 2. So step 2 is to honor the lineage and to understand the lineage of your field, but to also understand at the same time how humans learn. So how humans learn naturally is through exploration. But for the last several thousand, hundreds to thousands of years, we've been put into these classrooms and forced to memorize and study and pass tests. And that isn't is not alone an effective way of learning as a human. So learning and studying and understanding theory is important as a complement to learning through exploration, to forging your own way through your own journey and your own path. Now, it is important to be humble and to always check in, like, is there a chance that in my learning and my exploration I may hurt someone, especially if you're holding space for them for their deep emotional wounding as a coach, or in whatever way you're holding space for someone's health, physically, mentally, emotionally, etc., spiritually. So to, yes, ask those questions. Do I have the skills needed? And if not, to get a mentor, to have someone in your corner that's a few steps ahead of you, which is about, this idea of honoring the lineage, honoring what's come before. Yes, studying and becoming proficient in the theory of your field, but not as a replacement to your own individual journey, as a complement to it, to forge your own way through your own personal journey, so that you can hold space for yourself, which then allows you to hold space for others in a more and more powerful way. I'm using the word forge because blacksmithing is such a perfect example of how we're designed to learn. So at some point, blacksmithing was discovered. At some point, someone witnessed metal melting. Whether it was an accident or a controlled experiment, they noticed it would melt. And then they noticed when it would cool and harden, it would melt and harden into a new shape. So then they started to explore, what if we banged it with a hammer at different temperatures? Could we forge it into new shapes and new objects? And they started to create this field of blacksmithing. And they were at the leading edge of blacksmithing. And then they would have apprentices and teach this skill to their apprentices. And apprentices would learn through practice and learn through exploration. So it's not natural that we decide that we're proficient at something by passing a test. It's natural by practicing, learning through exploration, making mistakes. In the coaching industry, or if you have a team and you're leading them and holding space for their challenges, it's really good that you practice with yourself and you have someone to support you with that, and or you practice with peers. And to really forge your way by learning how to navigate your own emotional capacity. And then that part of you that believes you're not good enough, that your skills and talents and genius isn't good enough, to just know that you're never going to have it all figured out. It's never going to be perfect. As long as you're humble and you're always learning and you're always asking and you have support in your corner, you're not going to ever fully be that perfect coach or perfect leader that you want to be, because you're at the leading edge. Just like those first blacksmiths were, just like those, each apprentice is. They're at either their leading edge, the edge of their comfort zone, or perhaps you're even at the leading edge of humanity and really supporting humanity in coming back to themselves and not distracting themselves from their pain through busyness anymore. So that's the thing about imposter syndrome. It's always going to be there waiting for you at the edge of your comfort zone. And it's not a syndrome that you need to fix or heal. It's something to be aware of and to learn to navigate, and to learn to that fine line of when do you need to perhaps engage a mentor or learn a little bit more, and when do you just need to move through that energy and to receive the compliments, to receive the acknowledgement of your gifts and talents at that leading edge where you might not know, because you're birthing something new. We're all birthing a new way of being human. We're all birthing a new way of being in the coaching field, in your field. So you're not going to have it all figured out. You're not going to know, and your voice is important. Your development, your continued development of your field is important. That's where learning comes in. We're learning, we're honoring the lineage of who's come before in your industry, but also realizing that it's still molding. We're still banging the hammer. We're still uncovering, and we can't ever know it all when we're still banging the hammer and finding new ways to forge things and crafting the field together. So it's all very emergent, which brings us to step 3, gentleness. To be really gentle with the part of you that really truly believes your gifts and talents and genius aren't enough, no matter how much evidence and you get in the form of a financial return or exchange from people, or from accolades or acknowledgments of how much you've helped people and how good you are at what you do. To really honor that part of you that is conditioned to believe they need to have some test passed or they need to be perfect. You know, those early blacksmiths weren't perfect. They were a few steps ahead of their apprentices. And then those apprentices eventually had apprentices, and they were a few steps ahead of them, all forging the path together. So I invite you to look at yourself as an apprentice that is learning and isn't always going to get it right and is going to make mistakes and can complement the personal journey with experiences. And especially if you are responsible for someone's mental, emotional health, spiritual or physical health in some way, to have a mentor in your corner, but to know that if you've been forging the path within you, that is an experience that is qualifying you to do that same level of holding space for other people. So in some way. So again, the 3 steps. Step 1, become aware that imposter syndrome isn't real. It's not you don't have a syndrome. It's just a label. The experience is the gap between the truth of your gifts, talents, and skills and genius and your belief and perception about them. Step 2 is to honor the lineage and honor the way humans actually learn through exploration, to honor both at the same time. And step 3 is to approach imposter syndrome with gentleness, to build your capacity to feel that nervous excitement, that you're at the edge of your comfort zone. And don't make it mean anything more than that. Ask yourself the good questions. Am I prepared enough to support this person? Do I have the skills, gifts, and talents that this person needs to support them where they are? Am I willing to acknowledge when I don't? And if you have the answers to those questions, then let yourself explore. Because if you do hit an edge where you can't help someone, you can recommend them to someone else. But most of the time, I think you're going to find when you let yourself move and navigate with imposter syndrome, instead of treating it like something that's broken about you, that you're going to find that you actually most of the time have exactly what that person needs. And then you're building your ability to be with that discomfort, a discomfort that we have because of the conditioning that we grew up in about needing to be perfect and proficient before we charge for things. So I hope this video really, really helps. And if you have any questions or comments or things that didn't make sense, that you'll post a question below this video. I'll make sure to get back to all of them. And I also have a free 19-page report that you can download off my website, and that URL will be showing up here. It's orionoheb.com/HD guide. And it's a report that includes a analysis of your unique human design chart and how you can utilize that as a tool to really tap into the truth of your gifts and talents and your genius and how you're designed to move through the world. So you can notice how that is different than how you might think you should move through the world, how you've learned you should be, how you might compare yourself to others. So this can really, really help you in navigating the imposter syndrome as well. So I hope you download that. I hope you're having a beautiful day, wherever and whenever you're watching this, and perhaps we'll talk someday. I hope so. And until then, have a beautiful rest of your day.